What is up, Hexicans and Pulseinators? Welcome back to another video. Thank you for joining me. I want to talk about the general macroeconomic situation, a few just crypto updates, and I have a really good clip at the end if you just want to skip to it, where, a lot of people right now are starting to doubt Pulsechain. In the early days of Hex, Eric Wall did an interview with Richard Hart, and he calls Hex the dumbest idea ever, and Hex went on, so far at least, to do pretty well over 1,000 days. So I want to play that. It's actually my favorite interview of Richard. It's what sold me on Hex when I was doing my preliminary research and bought 420,000 Hex tokens for $1,000 a dreary November evening in 2019 or 2020. I missed big payday. Might have been 2021 actually. Yeah, it was 2021. But I got 420,000 Hex tokens for $1,000. If it was 0.003. And then 30 days later, that $1,000 was worth $5,000. And I was like, wow, this token is awesome. I 5x'd in 1 month. It just kept running. So if you guys like Hex and Pulsechain, hit the like button. If you can't hit the like button, with all due respect, GTFO. If you're that petty, you can't press a free button. I'm taking my time out of my day to give you this fire content, then just GTFO. But yeah, Hex has been rallying, doing well. Is Pulsechain delayed? So guys, this is, you guys know Trayvon? BitConnect. Yeah, okay, so Trayvon found something. And, Trayvon, you got to take him with a grain of salt. Broken clocks is right twice a day, but I think he has some decent alpha. I'm not going to take investment advice from anyone on YouTube, but yeah. So this is basically what he found on the Highest of Stakes documentary. It went from Q3 release of this year, potentially Q4 release of this year, so like December. It changed now to 2024. So a year and a half away. Obviously, you would think they would want to release this when Pulsechain comes out. The directors talked about for the documentary, he wants the Pulsechain release to be part of the documentary. So I don't know what conversations he's having with Richard Hart, but I don't think this is because the documentary isn't finished. Recently we saw Richard Hart say, what'd he say? He said there's a 7 or 14 piece orchestra set, or like basically all that's left in the documentary is the scoring of the music, right? Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I'm pretty sure Richard said everything is done with the documentary. It's good to drop. So why push it back a year, right? Now to talk about the macroeconomic situation, right? Personally, I think Richard's waiting for the market bottom. He just recently said, I will stop talking about calling the top on the day when I call the bottom on the day. He's all about his price charts. He talks about that price chart all the time. If we launch Pulsechain right now and, Bitcoin goes to 10K, maybe even 3K, who knows? Crypto's never been, in the past 12 years, 13, 14 years for crypto, there's never been a financial crisis, right? 2008, then Bitcoin was created. Ooh, isn't that a coincidence, guys? After the financial crisis that we didn't solve, we just bailed the banks out. We didn't solve the financial crisis. What was created? Ooh, Bitcoin. Satoshi Nakamoto, Japanese name. Look up the Japanese meaning in the Japanese language for Satoshi. Look up the Japanese meaning for Nakamoto. Nakamoto means domain, central. Satoshi? Take a guess. Wisdom, intelligence. Central intelligence. Yep, can't make this shit up. Who made the internet? Yeah, the CIA. So, because the macroeconomic situation, sorry, that was a tangent. Because the macroeconomic situation is so toxic right now, you could maybe see under 10K. Richard said he doesn't think this time's any different, right? He said in a recent stream, I don't think this time's any different, is a rebuttal to the argument I just gave about the macroeconomic situation not being good. But, we could see another year of Bitcoin kind of just crabbing. Maybe it goes up to, 30K or something. Maybe we don't see all-time highs, 100K Bitcoin until, 2024, 2025. I think the next halving for Bitcoin is 2025, so that'll make sense. Random question. You guys are smart people in the Hex community. I don't know if you guys have heard of this guy, Luke Belmar. I became obsessed with this dude when I found out about him a few days ago. because he got so much information. Basically 25 years old. He's worth over 150 million. He doesn't shill courses. He's all self-made. He's a third world immigrant. This dude's a fucking beast. And he basically made 8 figures, a few 10 mil in e-commerce. In 2020, after the COVID dip, he rolled his whole net worth into crypto and 40x'd his 8-figure net worth. He was a top 10 cake holder, sold all his cake at the top. Pancake swap, right? You know how that did. He was a top 10 holder. Like, this guy, he's really smart, right? But he basically said, I'm putting 10% of my net worth into Meta. Unfortunately, I don't like privacy infringements. I don't like these freedoms being taken away, which Facebook, they could really be implicated in that a lot. However, I do think Meta is probably one of those companies that's here to stay. It's definitely no Apple. But what do you guys think about this call? He said he's putting 10% of his net worth in, which is probably like, I have no idea, 20, 40 mil maybe. And yeah, I don't know. Really interesting guy, Luke Belmar. If you haven't heard of him, I thought he was interesting. This is random. The Coinbase, the Ripple lawsuit, this is just the only thing about XRP, is going to affect a lot of crypto. It's not just about XRP because, say they determine XRP as a security, they can go after other things. Hex, Pulsechain, decentralized enough. I'm not worried about that. But Coinbase filed this briefing to basically back up the SEC. So kind of a positive thing. Talking about the macroeconomic situation again, I have a clip from Tucker Carlson that I found interesting. America could run out of diesel fuel in 25 days. Maybe because I grew up in the city. I didn't grow up rich at all. I grew up in a, working middle class family. But I never was around truckers or I don't really understand the effects of diesel fuel, but it's pretty comprehensive and it's kind of a ripple effect with all the stuff it affects. So yeah, just listen to Tuck.
Thanks to the Biden administration's religious war in Ukraine, this country is about to run out of diesel fuel. According to data from the Energy Information Administration, by the Monday of Thanksgiving week, that's 25 days from now, there will be no more diesel. So what's going to happen then? Well, everything will stop. That means trucks and trains and barges all unable to move. Farm equipment will shut down. There will be no deliveries because there will be no trucks. There will be no diesel generators. And then inevitably our economy will crash because everything runs on diesel fuel. Not on solar panels, not on wind farms, on diesel fuel. Diesel is not a negotiable commodity. You have to have diesel. So what happens when we don't have it? Well, yesterday, Fox's Jackie Heinrich, apparently alone in the White House press corps, asked the White House spokesman John Kirby that very question. What's the plan here? We're running out of diesel. John Kirby, standing at the podium representing the White House, the President of the United States, the administration, the largest organization in human history, the executive branch of government, had no answer. But don't worry, he said. We will be exporting plenty of energy to Europe.
Yeah, so that's all I wanted to put with that video. What do you guys think about that? I've seen a lot of stuff over the past few years, the past decade, really. Preppers, doomsday preppers, having their massive food supply. You need to have your own water well and all this stuff. Power grid goes out. What are you going to do? And if you really think about it, without electricity, power, these necessities, not even necessities, but things that we're so used to having, we think of them as necessities. A lot of people would be screwed without them. Personally, I have no food. I live in an apartment. I live really close to a grocery store. I like to walk. It gets me out of my apartment during the day. So I walk to the grocery every day, right? I don't have a big food supply. I'd be wrecked. I don't think we'll get in that kind of situation, but who knows? The world goes in these 80-year cycles where it repeats history. I forget the term around this concept. History repeats itself. You've surely heard that, right? But you look at the Great Depression, now it's been about, it's not 80 years exactly, but it's around that time. So who knows? This is my favorite interview of Richard Hart and Eric Wall. People in the Hex community dog on this guy, but keep in mind, Richard once said that Eric Wall, this guy on the right, was one of the top 3 smartest people in crypto. In Eric Wall's recent interview with Richard Hart, a few months ago about Pulsechain, same thing. Eric Wall in this interview says Hex is the dumbest idea ever. In his interview about Pulsechain with Richard Hart, he says it's a dumb idea. But at the end of his interview about Pulsechain recently, not this interview, but the recent one with Eric Wall and Richard, this guy on the right, Eric Wall, said, Richard, he basically said, I think you're one of the smartest people. You're one of the smartest people I know, and I'm excited to see where you go with this, or like what you do. You know, he's being critical the whole time, but that's the kind of guy Eric Wall is. I thought at the end of that interview about Pulsechain when he said, yeah, Richard, you're one of the smartest guys I know. I'm looking forward to seeing what you're doing. A lot of people only see the FUD and they dog on him. Eric Wall, man, he's just a troll, right? But yeah, let's watch this.
So it turns out that in crypto, you do not need to have utility, you do not need to have demand, you need to have a good story and good marketing.
Sorry, Richard, this is the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard in my entire life.
Everyone in this hotel could have locks that don't work, and you wouldn't know, because you're not actually testing them.
This is the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard in my entire life.
So how about this? What if you made a Ponzi, and what if you made a pump and dump, but you left out the dump?
Sorry, Richard, this is the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard in my entire life. Are you competing with every other Hex user on the exact same rules? Do you have
Me
any,
personally?
do you
So
have
here's the
edge
two-
in the system that allows you to compete?
I won't speak to me personally, but I'll speak to what you want to hear.
This is the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard in my entire life.
So what's cool about our system is, in Bitcoin,
So you have unlimited supply, basically.
Yeah, but see, it's so misleading to tell people that shit, because people...
Okay, so yeah, I guess this is like a meme compilation. It just keeps cutting to, it's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. My point with this is people still call Hex a scam to this day. I at least get in 2019 when no one was, there was no track record with Hex, I could get it being called a scam. But after 1,000 days of uptime, and besides Shiba, like what token made more millionaires? What token had bigger gains? How could you still call it a scam? I get the early days, but now, I don't know. Makes sense though with Pulsechain, same stuff, right? It's a scam, it's a rug, it's not coming out. It's coming out. If Richard wanted to scam, one, he cares too much about his legacy. He cares way too much about that. But two, he'd already be gone, Maybe he does disappear in the next few months. Probably not. All right, thanks for watching. God bless you all. If you're still watching, comment turkey sandwich. So I know you finished the video. That means you're one of my top supporters. Take care of yourselves. Take care of your families. Until next time. What's up, guys? I'm not going anywhere.